Alright, so solving right triangles. Sam, you have your packet? Do you have your packet? Alright, so solving right triangles. What it means to solve right triangles means that we have to solve all the sides and solve all the angles. Alright, so solving means you're doing everything for the triangle. We've learned how to find the sides. If we have two sides, we can use Pythagorean theorem to find the third side. Or if we just have one side, we can use trig or special right triangles. If you guys have your little note cards, you can get that out too. Alright, so for right triangles, they have two acute angles. Solving a right triangle means to find all sides and all the angles. We're marking through the last one. Alright, once you know the sine, cosine, and tangent of an acute angle, you can use a calculator to find the measure of the angle. Alright, so for any acute angle, let's say that we don't know, we have no idea what this angle is. In order to find it, we're basically going to move this trig function to the other side and we're going to solve it. So when that happens, then we'll have A equals, when my trig function sine goes from one side to the other, we're taking the opposite. The opposite of a trig function looks like that. Looks like the word and then like an exponent of -1. That means the inverse of sine. And then we have times x, whatever's on that side. Alright, same thing for cosine. If we're trying to find the cosine of angle A, I'm going to move that trig function to the other side. So I have A equals the inverse of cosine times y. And then the last one is tangent. If I'm solving for the angle, I move that tangent to the other side, so it becomes the inverse, and I multiply it times whatever number is there. So if you were finding a side, you're going to use the trig function, sine, cosine, and tangent. If you're trying to find an angle, you're going to use the inverse of sine, the inverse of cosine, and the inverse of tangent. Alright, the next few problems, we are going to do practice problems. So look at number 1. Alright, so it says find each angle measured to the nearest degree. What we have to do first is let's make sure our calculators are in degree mode. Go to your calculator. How do we turn on degree mode? No, how do you turn on degree? Alright, go to mode and then what? Yep, go down to radian. You want to make sure that degree is highlighted. In my case, it is. I'm good to go. I'm going to hit second mode to flip the screen. You have to make sure your degree mode is on. If not, all of your numbers will be wrong. So all your work could be right. You type it in, and it gives you a whole different answer. So make sure your degree mode is on. Alright, number 1, it says the sine of B is equal to 0.4848. Alright, so my angle is here. I don't know what this angle is. in order to solve for it, I'm going to move my trig function of sine to the other side. So I'm left with b, which is my angle, is equal to, what is my, what's the opposite of sine? To the power of -1. And then you're going to just multiply it by whatever was already there. So 0.4848. Let's get a measure for angle B. So in order to do your inverse of sine, you're going to do second sine. You can't just press the regular sine, you have to do second sine. And then my numbers were 0.4848. We're also, like you said, that when we have an angle, we're always running our angles to the nearest whole number. All right, because we'll never talk about this angle is 33.2 degrees, right? Which was rounded. So in this case, now you're going to round this to what? Yep, 29. So angle B is 29 degrees. All right, let's look at number 2. We have the cosine of A is equal to 0.7431. I am looking for angle A. That's what I want by itself. So this trig function needs to go to the other side. So I'm going to have A equals cosine, or the inverse cosine, so cosine of -1, times 0.7431. Let's type that into our calculators. So I'm going to do second cosine, and then 0.7431. All right, Brian got 42. Jackie, you got 42 as well? So angle A is 42. Oh, did I put degrees on the first one? Okay, good. Make sure you put in degrees.
How do you know if it's like -1 or not?
Whenever we're trying to solve for an angle, that's when we have to move the cosine to the other side. So whenever you have to move it to the other side because we're looking for an angle, it'll make more sense on these problems, right? I'm not giving you 1 through 3 on your test, but it's just kind of teaching you what to look for. Whenever we're trying to find the angle, that's when you need the inverse function. All right, so number 3, I don't have that angle, let's solve for it. So I'm gonna have tan times to the power of -1 times 19.0811. What do you get for the measure of angle W?
86 or 87.
Good, 87, you should get 87. All right, so this is where your trick really comes in, because as you see on number 4, it didn't tell you sine, cosine, or tangent, right? We have to figure that out. So we always look for my angle. This is the angle that I need, right? Because it used to be like circling the angle. I always use X. These notes are using a question mark. Just make it X to be consistent. All right, top of my page, I'm gonna write a little hint. So Catella, you have your note card, so that's fine. All right, let's look at these numbers. 12, is that my opposite, my adjacent, or my hypotenuse? All right, well, let's start with the hypotenuse. Do we have a hypotenuse here?
Oh, yeah, the
20 torus, right? This is my hypotenuse, it's right across from the right angle. It's always your hypotenuse. So now 12 can either be opposite or adjacent. Is this line touching this angle? No, so is it side by side? So it has to be opposite. Adjacent means side by side. It is not adjacent. All right, so look at your trig functions. Which one means opposite hypotenuse? Sine, right? All right, sin, sine, whatever. You can say either one. So we have sine of x. I don't know what that angle is. Sine of x is going to be equal to, what's opposite? 12. What's hypotenuse? Good. We're almost there. So now I want to get x by itself because I need to figure out what that angle is. So this sine needs to move to the other side. So it's going to be the inverse of sine times 12 divided by 24. We can put that right into our calculators. So go to your calculator. We're going to type in inverse of sine and then 12 divided by 24. Did you guys get 30 degrees?
Yeah.
All right, good. Sometimes it's a pretty number like that and you don't have to round it. So x is equal to 30 degrees. All right, let's look at number 5. You guys go with 12, 16. Right. Number 5, my angle is what I'm looking for. This is what's important. All right? I know in number 5, I don't have a hypotenuse, right? So we have opposite and we have adjacent. Jackie, is 27 going to be opposite or adjacent? Good. Sydney, what about 38? Opposite or adjacent? Adjacent, because it is actually touching this angle. All right, Brian, over here. Which trig function do we need for O and A? Sine, cosine, or tangent? Are you Brian? Tangent, good. That's why I emphasize the no T on it. All right, so we have tangent of x is equal to my opposite, which is 27, over adjacent, which is 38. All right, I need to solve for that x. I can't just leave x by itself. So I have x equals, that tangent goes to the other side and it becomes the inverse of tangent times 27 over 38. You guys tell me what you get. I got 35 degrees too. Let me know if you guys get 35 degrees. What did you get? 35. All right, number 6. This is the angle I'm starting with. I'm never going to start with the right angle. That right angle is just there. I don't really need it for these problems. All right, so what are my trig functions, or what are my opposite, hypotenuse, and adjacent? What is 20 going to be? Hypotenuse. You think about English class, or I think you guys had the hypothesis in science too, right? Maybe that's a long time ago, like biology.
Yeah, biology.
Now your hypothesis should be in English. All right, your hypotenuse is 20. What is 13? Opposite or adjacent? Adjacent. It is touching that angle. So, which trig function, Bryant, with the T, do I need for AH? Sine, cosine, or tangent?
Cosine.
Cosine. Do you need glasses, Brian? You know you can look into that through,
I already got glasses.
you just don't wear them?
Yeah.
Well, your eyes are gonna get worse.
That's
Alright, so my adjacent is 13, my hypotenuse is 20. Alright, so if I want to solve for x, I'm going to have x is equal to the inverse of cosine times 13 over 20. You guys tell me what you want. 9?
49.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. 49 degrees. Alright, so you gotta be getting the hang of this, right? So I think you guys really understand all of this. It's just when we put it all together, and you have to know whether to do Pythagorean theorem or special right triangles or trig to find the angle. I think that's when your minds just explode. So today we're going over this. Next class we're going to quiz, and then we're going over a class test review. We haven't done that in a while, right? Your class test review is very similar to the test, right? So it's important that you guys are here next class. What, Friday? Yeah, we done Friday?
Yeah.
Let's look at this for a second. All right, so let's turn the page. Brian, did your test in the morning or afternoon? Okay, yours too? Okay, so you may be back, depending on, I don't want to rush you, right? Like, take your time. You definitely won't be here. Yeah, okay.
I was like, finish your.
Yeah, you gotta come to class if you do, but
I
you'll probably be on the 8th period by then. All right, so example 1 says solve the following right triangles, round decimals to the nearest 10. All right, guys, this word here, when it says to solve, that means sides and angles. On your test, I have modified it to where I'm not just giving you a blank slab like this. What they want, take my phone. Look at letter A. What they're expecting you to do is to put like angle A equals, angle B equals, and angle C equals.
Wait, are the sine, cos, and tan always going to be like lowercase? Or does it-
Huh. We'll get to that. That's what it is. Technically yes, because those are the sides, right? Your angles are always the
Okay.
capital letters. All right, so in this case, they're asking you for side C. So they're saying like, without Pythagorean theorem, pretend that's A, that's B, we don't know C, right? So I have 4 things to solve for. On your test, I'm going to actually write in what I want you to solve for. It's not going to be the whole triangle, okay? But first, let's do the side of C. I can do Pythagorean theorem whenever I have 2 sides and I'm looking for a third side. So A is 2 squared. B is 3 squared is equal to C squared. That's what we're solving. You guys can type this part right in your calculator. What's 2 squared plus 3 squared? You can break it up if you want to, but I would just type it all together.
13.
You get 13.
So then, 13 squared.
The square root. All right, I saw this on your quiz a lot. Okay, a lot of you are giving me the right answers, but you're forgetting that C is squared too. So you should have kept going 1 step further and took the square root. So C is going to equal what? It's the square root of 13. 3.6?
Yeah.
Works for me. Alright, so C is 3.6. I also know what angle C is. What's angle C? Look at your picture. Huh?
90.
Oh,
90 degrees. Angle.
Oh.
You guys gotta be careful with your angles and your sides. Alright, so now I just need to find 2 angles, A and B. Let's pick angle B. This is where trig comes into play. Alright? If we're starting with angle B, let's use 2 and 3, because they already gave us those numbers, and I don't want to use 3.6 as your decimal. So if you look at, and I'm going to just erase this so it doesn't confuse you. I'm going to erase the sides because we're done with Pythagorean theorem. Alright, looking at your angle, is 2 opposite or adjacent or hypotenuse? That's opposite. So 3 is
Adjacent.
adjacent. Which trig function has opposite and adjacent?
Tan.
Tangent. All right, so we're going to do tangent of which angle?
B.
B. That's which angle I use. What's my opposite?
Up to
2. And what's my adjacent? Adjacent.
3.
All right, I'm solving for angle B. So this is how we know we have to use the inverse. It's going to be B equals
Of 10 to
10 to the negative 1 times 2 over 3.
Ah.
What do you guys get for the measure of angle B?
34.
34 degrees. Sounds good to me. All right, so we technically could do trig again to find angle A, but that's kind of overworking. We know that we need how many degrees in one triangle?
So we just do 180
180, right?
minus 90 minus 10.
Good. To find angle A, let's do 180 minus 90 minus 34. What do you get for measure A?
56.
46 degrees. So we just saved ourselves a bunch of time because I didn't have to. Oh, is it 56?
Yeah.
Let me double check. Oh, yeah, you're right. Sounded like you said 46. All right. 56. All right, good. So we saved ourselves a bunch of time because I didn't have to do trig again. If I have 2 angles, I have a third angle. All right, so go to lunch. When you guys come back, we're going to do one more on this page, and then we have to do a couple word problems. All right, we're definitely going to skip around today. Don't be late coming back from lunch.
Yeah, Diana.
And Brian. All right, so we're doing this one. Because it says to solve, that means that I need all 3 sides of the triangle and all 3 angles. Angle F, they told me, was 31 degrees. Angle E is going to be 90 degrees. Brian, what did you get for angle D?
54.
54? I got 59. 59 degrees. So, if we have 2 angles, you can always find the third angle. What's in? Alright, so then we need to find side BE and side BF. I'm going to label these with X and Y. And let's call this Z. So Z is 17.5. It's just easier to know what we're solving for. Alright, so let's start with angle F, 31 degrees. Alright, I don't want to use angle D. Guess I could if I wanted to. But let's solve for X first. Okay, and I don't really need this either. Alright, if I want to solve for X, would X be opposite or hypotenuse? Or adjacent? This would be opposite and this would be adjacent, right? This would be hypotenuse. Alright, so which trig function do I need for X? 17.5. What's O and A? Tan of what angle? What angle are we basing this off of? Where did I start? I circled it. So tan of 31 is opposite, which is X, over adjacent, which is 17.5. All right, we solved these on day 1. How do I do this for day 2?
Divide by 1.
Make it into a proportion. Good. 1 times X. It's just X. Then I have 17.5 times tan of 31. What do you get for X? What do you get for that side? 17.5 times tan 31. Let's see if we type this in. 10.6? I got 10.5. Alright, so that's X. Alright, we got the first one. So, if you wanted to erase the X, you could write in 10.5, but you don't have to. I like to always use whatever angle, whatever side they gave us to. Alright, lastly, I have to solve for Y. Alright, so based off this angle, let's use 17.5 and Y. What trig function do I need for A and H?
Cosine.
Cosine of which angle? Which angle am I basing this off of?
31.
31. I haven't even talked about this 90-degree angle, so it has to be 31. Cosine of 31 is equal to adjacent over hypotenuse, which is Y. You guys tell me what you get for Y.
So we just do that. Alright.
You get to solve it for Y. Who remembers what to do to get Y by itself? Divided by cosine of 31. Good. We're solving just like we would if it was X. So I'm left with Y is equal to 17.5 divided by cosine of 31. Everything. I have three sides, 17.5, 10.5, plus here's 20.4, and I have three angles. Alright, so as I said earlier, on your test, I'm not going to make you solve the triangle completely. I will tell you what you need to solve for. Alright, let's go to angle of elevation and angle of depression. Alright, I want you guys to write down exactly what I'm writing down because it's a little corny, but I think it makes sense for you to understand elevation and depression. Normally, elevation means I'm getting higher, right? I'm going up. Depression means I'm going lower, right? So let's draw ourselves here. Let's pretend that this is us. That little guy, right? I want this vertex of the angle to kind of be at your head, as if that is your line of sight. So let's say if you were there, and you were looking straight ahead, that's your line of sight, okay? If that's your line of sight, and this is my angle, if I put an X here, would that be above or below the line? Above your line of sight. Okay, so your X degree, because that's what we're looking for the angle. Your angle there will be above your line of sight. Alright, let's say that we're like standing on a mountain or something. That's us. And here's my line of sight, right? If I look straight out, that's my line of sight. If I had an angle degree, would that be above or below my line of sight? Below. How that works there. Alright, so just think about your angles. Okay. So now let's look at our word problem. For number one, we have to draw a picture when we have these kind of things, okay? I've been doing this a long time and I have to draw a picture. It helps me, so I know it'll help you. Sentence by sentence, we're going to draw. So a tree casts a shadow of 28 meters. So draw a tree. It does not have to be perfect, of course. Draw a little shadow. A shadow. All right, I'm going to create a triangle out of this. There's my triangle. All right, so the tree casts a shadow of 28 meters, so the shadow is 28 meters. The elevation of the sun is 49 degrees. We're not going to get there yet. Let's skip that. How tall is the tree? When it asks you a question, that's your X. So I need to fill in my angle. My angle's going to either be, I know this is a right angle here, so it won't be there. I need to fill in either this top angle or the bottom angle. Let's pretend that we are down here on the ground. All right? Let's pretend my line of sight is straight across. It says the angle of elevation is 49 degrees. That's where my angle of elevation would be. It would not be up here because let's pretend you're standing up here. Like if you were standing here and looking across, the angle of elevation would be up there, right? Because it needs to be above. That doesn't even make sense. Like we're not even pretending part of the triangle. So this is my triangle. All right, so how tall is the tree? Let's take a look. This is the angle I want to use. 28 and X. Which one is opposite? Which one is adjacent? So the X is opposite, right? Which trig function do I need for opposite and adjacent? So we have tan of what angle? 49, that's the angle I circled, is equal to the opposite, which is X, over adjacent, which is 28. Divide by 1, and then you're going to cross multiply. 1 times X is X. 28 times tangent of 49 gives you what? What do you get for X? How tall is this tree? 32.2 feet, but I like to round my size to just one decimal place. The angles to a whole number. Does that make sense? All right, let's look at number 2. On number 2, it says you are measuring the height of a building. You stand 100 feet from the base of the building. You measure the angle of elevation from a point to the ground to the top of the building. All right, so draw a line to where you're standing. Draw a line to the top of the building. Does it say angle of elevation or depression? Elevation from the point on the ground. All right, so we were talking about line of sight if you look straight across. Now we're saying from the point on the ground straight across. The building is 48, or wait, the point on the ground is 48 degrees. So that 48 degrees goes right there. You're standing 100 feet away from the building. Yes. Okay. And you're trying to find the height of the building. Which angle do I want to use here for my trig function? I know this is a right angle, but we never use a right angle, so the 48. All right, X and 100, opposite, adjacent, hypotenuse. What is X? Opposite. And what is 100?
Adjacent.
Which trig function is OA? So I have tan of what angle?
48.
Tan of 48 is equal to opposite, which is x, over adjacent, which is 100. Alright, so when I divide by 1 and I cross multiply, x equals 100 times tan 48. So Diana got, the building is 111.1, what was it, T? We have one more to do. Turn to page 18. Alright, I actually haven't done this one before, so we're going to do it together. A person at the top of a cliff stands 100 feet tall and sees Gilligan's boat. Alright, so I would draw, I'm not really the best drawer, but is that a good cliff? That's a boat. Alright, that's Gilligan's boat. What? It's supposed to be a tree. Alright, so person is standing here on the cliff. They see Gilligan's boat. Alright, so we can create a triangle here, right? That's the only way to create a triangle. Alright, so how far is the boat from the base of the cliff? Alright, well, we have an angle of depression of 10 degrees. So would that be above or below the line of sight? Below. So it's going to be here. If you wrote it here, that would be above the line. This is below. Alright, and am I missing a number? Person at the top has a 100-foot cliff. So this cliff is 100 feet tall. How far is the boat from the base of the cliff? Alright, so notice how step by step I filled it in. It said angle of depression. I thought about my line of sight. My angle went under my line of sight. And now we filled in the rest. If we're looking at this 10-degree angle, adjacent, hypotenuse, or opposite, what gives the 100? Guys, opposite, adjacent, or hypotenuse for 100. It's touching the angle. It's adjacent. What about x? That's opposite. So I'm going to have tangent of 10 is equal to opposite, which is x, over adjacent, which is 100. Alright, Brian's been telling us to divide by 1 and then cross multiply. So 1 times x is x. And do the same for the other side. 100 times tan of 10. What did you get? What is 100 times tan of 10?
17.
What did you get? 17.6 feet.
Okay. If it's 1 and 5, that's
So is it 6 or 7?
6.
Okay. Alright, so if you guys turn to the next page, page 19, says homework B. You are doing the front only. So the top of your page, right, front only. And I'm going to help you set up the first one. Alright, so the first one you have a triangle. A, C, and B. This is 4, this is a right angle. They're asking you for the measure of angle A, AB, and BC. If I were you, I would change, and I would write X and Y. We only are solving for variables. So AB would be X, BC would be Y. Alright, so you don't have to solve for everything. Right? But you can solve for A, you'll use trig for A, and then you'll use the same thing for X and Y. Any questions on your homework? Alright, I'll check this next class and if we're going to do our practice review. Or our practice test.